Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm delighted to welcome a panel of experts and amazing speakers to share with you today how we are going to be putting the customer first with intelligent automation. But before I get into that introduction, please let me walk you through a couple of quick logistics to make sure that you can get the most out of today's session. On the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see the photos, bios, and some social buttons for our three speakers. So don't let the conversation end here. They do enjoy collaborating with you. Please use those buttons to get in touch with them and also to read detailed information about their backgrounds. On the left-hand side of your screen, you're going to see the Q&A box. You'll use this in two ways. If you encounter any kind of technical issues, if you have a question related to the materials or any information about this webinar as a whole, please put that information in there, and our team of technical support folks will be getting right back to you. But also, and even more important to us, we'd like to learn from you. We'd like as much collaboration as possible. So you don't need to wait till the end, and I already see that Jeremy has figured that out and already submitted a question. So please do that anytime throughout the presentation. We'll be queuing those up for our panelists and then take an opportunity to read your questions and comments. And then next, you didn't even have to get on an airplane, and you get some phenomenal giveaways. So on the right-hand side, we refer to it as our digital gift bag listed under the Resource Center. You're going to see three takeaway items for you. These are all excellent resources. So there's a white paper that talks about IA scaling, expanding, and excelling. We also have the peak market report, which talks about specifically intelligent document processing, what that landscape looks like, and what one of our partners, their profile, and how they look particularly in that market. And then you get much more than just two resources, because the last piece is a link directly to the Intelligent Automation Resource Hub, which just has loads and loads of materials to help all of you on this journey. So with all of that, you'll have that access now, but you'll also have that access once again when in 2 hours from now you'll receive an email with the link to the recording of this session, and you can download those materials then as well. With that out of the way, I can tell you it's just a true pleasure to welcome our panelists today. I'm going to hand over to Dermot from Kofax, who's going to introduce himself and our esteemed panelists. Dermot, welcome to the digital stage, and now over to you.
Rochelle, thank you very much, and let me add my welcome to all of you listening today. This is Dermot McCauley. I'm Vice President Platform Product Marketing here at Kofax, and I'm going to act as your host today. I'll lead the Q&A at the end of the session, and I'll make some remarks at beginning and end. But let me begin by introducing the featured speakers today and briefly speaking through agenda before kicking off. I'm very pleased to welcome George G., who will be our main speaker today. George is the Customer Service and Collection Director at Foundation Home Loans and has over 15 years of experience in the financial services industry, based in the UK, and with 8 years focusing on the specialist mortgage market. And prior to Foundation Home Loans, George acted as a commercial director at a consumer credit provider, and prior to that, in early career, worked at Lehman Brothers, Kensington, and GMAC. So a ton of experience, and has some great stories to share later in this hour. Sarah Burnett, also very pleased to welcome. Sarah is Executive Vice President and a very distinguished analyst at the Everest Group, well-known, highly respected in the industry as an analyst and market influencer. And at the Everest Group, Sarah leads the firm's research program globally on service optimization technologies, and as part of that, researches and advises clients on automation technologies, including robotic process automation, which we'll hear more of today, RPA, and also artificial intelligence, which she will also speak of today. And she also reviews global providers who offer those automation capabilities. In terms of agenda, I'm going to say a few words shortly to kick it off, and then pass to Sarah, who's going to talk about intelligent automation. What is the I in intelligent automation, really? And then George will speak about at Foundation Home Loans how he, in the initiatives he's driven there, has put the customer first with intelligent automation. I'll then wind up with a little bit about who we are at Kofax and what we offer at intelligent automation in our portfolio, and what our customers' goals are when they adopt that, a very brief segment, principally designed really to give you time, if you haven't already, to submit questions that I will then manage through and have George and Sarah answer. I'm happy to answer any you may have about Kofax. So again, thanks for joining, and let me kick off with a couple of brief slides to talk about the opportunity of intelligent automation. Well, we are all of us living in a world where disruptive technology is frankly changing business as usual in a much more radical way than we've seen in recent past. There are 4 trends I'm highlighting on this page that I think are the primary ones that are affecting all of us right now. The first is RPA, robotic process automation, which is freeing people from the chore of repetitive tasks and really revolutionizing the workplace. Many of you are engaged, I'm sure, in future of work initiatives or similarly titled works and are starting to see the workforce as being not only you and your colleagues, but if you like, your digital colleagues, the software robots with whom you're now working together. Artificial intelligence is an enormous and very deep rooted trend that's also changing much about our world and how we all work together. AI thinks on behalf of us now, thinks faster than people can, and makes that joint workforce of people and digital worker software robots even smarter, so really ramping up the potential of a new type of workforce. Thirdly, we live in a world where systems, which used to be quite isolated as islands of technology, are now much more connected. Open service-based architectures, a variety of new age technologies mean that systems all over the world can talk to each other in an instant, and therefore organizations can collaborate with each other in connected ecosystems that make those organizations much more operationally agile. And last but not least, in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen the rise of the mobile device. It really has transformed how we all work, not just end consumers, but each of us in our work roles as well. And we see this really expanding the imperative to have every organization work in an omni-channel way. And we see the scope of this expanding even further. We're increasingly seeing, all of us in our work lives, the use of chatbots, some of us even now working with voice bots. And increasingly we're seeing a push toward using artificial intelligence to interpret what those chatbots are saying and even to speak on their behalf. So a lot of really ground-shaking trends out there. What is the impact? Well, it is a tremendous impact, and here I've chosen, before handing to Sarah, to highlight what the World Economic Forum says. It talks about what it's calling the 4.0 revolution, and the automation solutions they're having a truly tremendous impact on the future of work, and just focusing on how work will change. In a world where many think that automation is removing jobs, what they're saying is, in fact, no, there are going to be, by 2020, indeed maybe 75 million jobs declining, but in their place 133 million jobs of different types emerging. So there's a different workplace for all of us. There's tremendous opportunity literally for millions of us in this disruptive technology. And with that, I'd like to introduce Sarah and hand to you, Sarah, to take control to talk about the I is for intelligent automation. Yours, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dermot. And hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be joining you today to talk about this exciting topic, and it's ever evolving as well. There's nothing ever dull with intelligent automation. I'm going to talk about 3 main topic areas today. These are the key areas that I'll be discussing: the definition of intelligent automation, and then a look at the emerging technology trends in this field. Look at how these technologies combine for specific applications. Talking about 2 of the biggest areas of these of narrow AI, and those are intelligent document processing and intelligent virtual agents. I'll finish with a bit of crystal ball gazing, sharing my views on the outlook for this trend for this automation using intelligent automation. Let me start with a definition. This is Everest Group's definition of intelligent automation. It's basically RPA combined with some aspect of artificial intelligence. These are very complementary. There's no way that one replaces the other. They're totally complementary. RPA is rules-based with sweet spot of working with structured data rather, and processing according to those rules. AI, on the other hand, can do content, unstructured data, and can handle non-rules as well. It can actually learn and learn from humans and actually develop its own rules and understanding for what is expected of it. And over time, it can learn and reduce the number of times that it reaches out to a human for handling exceptions. Every time an exception is handled, it can learn from the way that that was handled and add that to its knowledge. So it's got this inherent self-learning ability. There are other AI types of AI that don't necessarily have this kind of learning ability. It's a very big field, but today I'm talking about this particular type of AI. Let me go on to the next to tell you about how AI is being weaved into RPA. So on the one hand, we have RPA, which is very rules-based and not intelligent on its own. But what we're seeing is RPA vendors adding some degree of intelligence for different purposes to the RPA solution to make it better at what it does. And the kind of things that we've seen are, for example, here you'll see there on the side, we see that we're talking about auto scalability. So what we see is vendors adding features to the control mechanism within the RPA platform to allow the controller to effectively detect when demand goes up for a particular job and allocate more robots to that job or reprioritize other work. So this is a kind of very sort of basic intelligence that is being built. Another area that we see AI actually helping RPA do better is the automation recommender type capabilities that we're seeing emerging. This is where through following key clicks and mouse clicks, the RPA or in many cases the capability that they offer for recording automations is understanding actually what is going on. So is mapping the process that the human is going through and rebuilding, reconstructing those processes, and some intelligence is needed there in order to reconstruct those processes and then recommend them for automation. So where there are very many repetitive steps and a lot of volume of transactions, then those lend themselves really well to be automated. Another area is computer vision. Some of the RPA tools use computer vision for picking objects on the screen. Many of them use the document object model. They pick the details of the object, but in environments such as Citrix, where it's not so easy to pick up those details, they have and do get to automate through those environments as well, because many of them are now using computer vision for those kinds of capabilities. We're also seeing the beginnings of self-healing systems, really just the very early stages of those. But we are currently looking at assessing all of these technologies. We're actually putting the finishing touches to our 2019 peak matrix assessment, and there are some interesting developments in there as well. So watch this space for how the RPA platforms are evolving. There'll be a lot more coming to you soon. And then what we see is the emergence of this kind of platform that combines RPA and AI. A lot of RPA vendors would like to position themselves in this space. They like to be the glue that brings these technologies together. But there are also other technology vendors who are working in this space, and effectively they're adding RPA to their platforms. So there's a lot of activity going on. But what we are seeing is the convergence of these technologies. So in effect, you'll be able to automate not just the transactional parts of a process, but where there is a document involved or where there are emails being taken in, you'll also be able to use AI-enabled technologies as well. So this is where you see the connections there with machine learning and deep learning, depending on what you're doing and what kind of technology is being used. Computer vision's already there to some extent. I've mentioned that. But then there's intelligent OCR, there's intelligent document processing, and a lot of natural language processing as well. So this is where you can now do more of each process, because typically processes have some unstructured content as well, so you'll be able to automate those. We're seeing integration with business process management tools there. We're seeing integration with workflow and orchestration, and also increasingly seeing process discovery and process mining for being able to add and extend the extent of automation that you have in the enterprise, and also identify other candidates for it. Let me go on to this next section. This is about the major solutions for business process automation that use AI. So I'm now going to focus on the AI side. And there are two major technologies emerging in this space. And when I say major, I mean by their applicability to business process automation in particular. So it's in this context that I'm talking about. One of those is intelligent virtual agents. You might think of these as, either chat bots or ones that actually offer some degree of intelligence beyond chat as well. So let me give you a definition for this. Intelligent virtual agents are basically AI-powered conversational robots that can be used in contact centers, in finance and accounting, HR, IT help desk, and they use capabilities such as NLP in order to process what is required of them. They can also offer additional capabilities like sentiment analysis, some image recognition and extraction, some analytics. There are even some that are learning to handle utterances just in their conversational interfaces as well. So really the advantage of these kind of robots is that they do allow you to run services pretty much 24 hours a day and have that first line of customer interactions handled for the basic inquiries that the customer or an employee might make. And so it's all about increasing capacity and reducing the amount of level 1 work that your staff might have to do. So overall, adding to the sort of bringing really benefits, financial and also staff contentment, kind of satisfaction with the job kind of benefits as well. The other side is intelligent document processing. This is an area that is growing very fast. When we say document, we really mean anything that is unstructured data, so content as well. So it refers to software products or solutions that capture data from documents like email, text, PDF, and scanned documents. It then categorizes those and extracts the relevant data for further processing using AI technologies such as computer vision, natural language processing, and machine or deep learning. They have a wide variety of use cases in different business functions, such as know your customer, in banking, a lot of insurance claims processing, and so on. So I'll tell you a bit more about their use cases next. So let's take a look at the applications of intelligent virtual agents. As you can see, they can be used in many different sectors, but typically at the first line of support. So you might ring a bank and find that you're getting your chatbot is answering you and is actually able to tell you your account balance and some of these basic questions that you might have. They might be able to do some degree of analysis as well, tell you your purchase history, or take a look at some contract notes and do some kind of summary or insights for you from those. In other areas, claims processing and management, again, handling those first line of inquiries, and even guiding customers maybe through insurance policies. We've certainly seen them used in bank loan application processing. They're sort of popping up in different parts of the world, taking customers through the questions that you would typically have to answer for a bank loan. They have other applications, in personalized health information. I wouldn't quite trust them for emergencies. We've got that on that slide, but I think in terms of integration with other systems, they are actually extremely good at that because they have natural synergies with a lot of other systems, and so they can integrate with devices and provide that kind of voice or chat interface to those devices. So being able to talk to you about your health, if you're wearing any kind of wristbands that tell you about the steps that you're taking, or your heart rate and these kind of things. In human resources, they can do a lot of screening or of potential employees, and some onboarding and training, and also maybe help with setting up interviews and scheduling those as well. And we're going to see them increasingly used in travel agencies for booking flights and hotels, and providing some local recommendations as well. Let's go on to the next. Again, with intelligent document processing, I've already mentioned the application in Know Your Customer, where a lot of documents have to be read and a lot of cross-referencing of information. It's the same with other banking applications, such as loan servicing. We see a lot of uses of that in that area. And in insurance claims, I know of a particular insurance company here in the UK that significantly increased its capacity by using this kind of solution, and can handle fluctuations in demand as well. So if there's a storm and there's a lot of storm damage and claims shoot up, then it can actually handle all of those a lot better than it used to previously. In other areas, we see, for example, in healthcare, in research in healthcare, for medical research and pharmaceutical research, a lot of applications there of managing documents and taking out key points and understanding, summarizing and taking out salient points. Proof of delivery notes, invoices is another area where it's being quite widely used in different industries, not just manufacturing, and as you see there, in travel and logistics as well. And purchase orders is another area. Okay, let's go on to the next section. So I'm going to do, this is where I talk about the outlook. And initially, I just wanted to share with you what the office of the future would look like. So we're so used to having everything done by humans in a sort of typical office. What we're seeing, of course, is that workforce is becoming quite mixed in terms of humans and robots, and the robots are of different kinds. So you might now have chatbots, agent assist robots. These are, you may have heard of these as robotic desktop automation or attended automation. And then, of course, cognitive robots, and RPA, of course, is continues to be a very hot topic in this space of automation. I recognize this is quite a busy slide, so I've taken each section out. And one question that I get asked a lot is, where do these different technologies fit? So I've taken out, I'm zooming in onto each one of these sections and then sharing with you where the technologies fit. So let's start with the front office, the blue section. As you can see here, the kind of technologies that are used here are chatbots and intelligent virtual agents, depending on how much intelligence they have. They could have with voice, they could be a complete intelligent virtual agents, but you can also have those which just chat and just have the chat interface. So they typically are deployed in the front office to take those first customer contact interactions. In the enterprise itself, they could be taking questions from employees in the IT department for, IT help desk, or HR, or maybe even to do with benefits and so on within HR. If a complicated question comes in that the IVA or the chatbots can't handle, then they would pass it on to a person to deal with it. So let's say somebody's rung and asked to have their address changed, then if the address isn't easily resolved because there may be other people with similar names, or the person might have multiple addresses, multiple residences, then it would go to a human agent. And there next to the human agent is a desktop automation tool that the agent activates once he or she has resolved the problem, and then gets the address change done through those RDA desktops. So on the one side, we have chatbots and IVAs. On the other side, we have the desktop automation robots, the RDAs. So if we go to the back office, you'll see that we have RPA tools. So these are the classic unattended robots that run on a server in a data center. They run according to schedules. So they would be polling for jobs that have come in. So that change of address, if it's been passed by the RDA agent to an RPA, then the robot that is responsible for the change of address updates will be polling a queue to see if there are new jobs to be processed, and will pick that up and process it. And then next to that, we have the document processing capability that is post-digitization. So this is after the OCR has done its work for any paper forms that come in, but then it's, any kind of digitized content to take those and categorize, classify, check them, classify them, categorize them. And then you will also hear about things like process discovery, BPM and orchestrators, and process miners. These are really in adjacent areas to the actual automation that we've talked about. So they'll be working with RPAs and RDA robots. They will actually be working with them to manage that kind of with BPM and orchestrator workflow type things. It's managing the control of processes going from man to machine, back to man, or machine to machine. It's about being able to do more complicated processes. And process discovery and process mining, they are for what else you can automate, so helping you identify what else to automate. Lastly, my last slide, this is really the stepping stones towards an intelligent, this is artificially intelligent business operations. So we started with pure RPA, which had no intelligence. Then we moved to RPA with workflow and orchestrators, which could do more complicated processes. In the meantime, these narrow AI applications like intelligent document processing and intelligent virtual agents developed in the middle there. And so they're being adopted increasingly. And now we're seeing this RPA plus AI, this intelligent automation that we're seeing, which is a combination of the two. Next, I'm predicting that we'll see, in fact, I have already seen products that do this, which is intelligent controls as well, so being added to the mix. And effectively, as time goes by, these systems become more cleverer and they start to do the parts that humans would do. So they become more and more intelligent. So we'll end up with the control and the back and forth of processes also being done by artificial intelligence tools. So we'll end up with this intelligent business operations of the future. This might be a scary story for some, but on the other hand, we just heard how even though jobs are being replaced, new jobs are being created. So I'm going to leave you there with food for thought and finish my presentation. Thank you.
And Sarah, thank you very much. Rather than scary, I have to say it was, I think, inspirational, very insightful. Thank you for your analysis, and I think our audience will have found it very useful. So thank you very much. We appreciate what you've been saying to us and the depth you've been able to bring to the event today. Let me then move to the application of some of the intelligent automation technologies that we've discussed so far, and pass the baton to George G. at Foundation Home Loans to talk about he and his colleagues have put the customer first there with intelligent automation. George, over to you.
Thank you, Dermot, and Sarah, thank you for that. I found that very, very insightful. So as Dermot said, I'm going to talk to you guys today about our journey at Foundation Home Loans. It's a journey that we've been on now for about 18 months, and I think it's fair to say that when we started this, we probably didn't know it was an intelligent automation journey. It was just a journey to automate some of our processes. So I thought what might be helpful today is if I shared that journey with you, and how we selected some of those processes that we wanted to automate, how we managed to get some buy-in from the executive, because you can't do these things without funding. Then I'll take you through a couple of our case studies, the things we've done so far, and then a bit of a look to the future and what's next. So before I get into all of that, just a brief background on who Foundation Home Loans are. We're a mortgage lender in the UK. We originate mortgages through brokers for customers in terms of investors, but also residential borrowers. And we're funded in the wholesale securitization market. So for us, we've got three types of customer. We've got a mortgage broker who will originate customers for us. We've got the mortgage borrower themselves, and we've got investors. For the purposes of today, I'm going to focus on our mortgage borrowers, so the customers that we've actually got out there, primarily because that's the area that I'm responsible for, and also the area that we've done most in this space. So to start our journey, I look back to 2017, and we had a bit of a problem. We've been around for an awfully long time, and like many organisations, we had a whole bunch of processes that had organically developed over time. And because they organically developed over time and they weren't strictly designed, they were very, very suboptimal. And we knew that we were not efficient, we were not effective, and ultimately we weren't necessarily putting the customer first in all circumstances. And that's one of the core values at Foundation Home Loans. So we took some time to reflect, and we developed a very, very simple objective for ourselves, which was to put the customer first through the effective delivery of processes. Now, this wasn't all about cost saving. It wasn't all about slashing costs or slashing headcount. It was genuinely, how can we make our processes more effective in order to spend more time and attention on the customer? I think it's fair to say at that point we probably oversimplified, because it sounds very, very simple, and looking back on it 2 years down the line, it is relatively simple. But when we then started to look at what processes should we automate and how should we automate those processes, it wasn't so simple. So I'll talk you through some of those things, and we hit the first stumbling block in the first sentence here. So selecting the right process to automate is very difficult. Now, automating a process in itself could potentially be the right thing to do, but not always. And this is where we start to get our first glimpse into intelligent automation. So should we just simply automate a process? If I've got a process today whereby 3 signatures are required from the same person, it keeps on going back to them, should I automate that same process, or should I think about it differently and try to re-engineer that process? The second stumbling block we come across is exactly that. It's you, it's I. I will have very, very different views of what I believe is an important process to automate. And we all have our preconceptions of where our frustration lies. And it's important to try and forget that. It may well be that we end up being correct and we end up being absolutely right, but we need to go out and we need to get some input from both our employees and our customers to understand what it is that really needs to be addressed first. So I think that's probably the first thing that I would say to go out and do is find out where the pain is for the employees and customers. Ask them what it is that will help and where we should start. And then I've kind of got four little checkpoints. It's not a quiz. It's not a set of criteria, but it's a few things. So the first question that we try to ask with all of our processes, well, what's the risk here? Now, don't forget, we were starting our intelligent automation journey from the very beginning. We didn't want to take too much risk to start with. If we had tried to intelligently automate the way customers' payments are calculated or collected, that would have been too much risk for us. So we had to make sure that we had the right level of risk, especially at the start. In the future, that may change. Then we wanted to look at the handoffs within the process. Now, again, when you select a process to start with, we wanted to make sure that it was contained enough and that we weren't leaving lots of loose ends behind. Because if you automate part of a process, you still have to integrate it into your existing manual processes. So it's very important that you make sure that all of those handoffs are either taken care of within your process or they are dealt with properly. The automate or intelligently automate, I'll talk about this a number of times throughout the slides today, but really this is a shift in mindset, and this, for me, is one of the most important parts of intelligent automation. I'll come on to it again more later, but really it's that choice between simply automating a process or being intelligent about the way you automate or automating it intelligently, and that will make more sense as I go through. And then finally, are there any other complementary business needs that can be addressed at the same time? We were very lucky in that we were relatively ignorant and didn't know what intelligent automation and process automation could bring us. So when we started to do the research and find out what it could do for us, we were able to bring 2 or 3 different projects together and effectively utilize the budget from all of those projects in order to get this one across the line. So it's looking across the business to see, is there anything else that this could solve, that these processes could solve. And then, which one of my favorite phrases is, don't try and eat the elephant. Don't make it too big. It needs to be manageable. It needs to be small, effectively. So then we go on to getting the cash. How do we get that buy-in from the executive? A lot of this speaks for itself, but I guess early engagement, that's very, very important. So to make sure that you get the exec engaged from a very early stage and they're bought in and as enthusiastic about intelligent automation as you are. Share as well with the exec the feedback from the customers and employees. And for us, this was particularly powerful with our employees. They were excited about using new technology, and they were excited about being at the forefront and the future of intelligent automation. And this was very, very powerful for us. People wanted to work on these projects and be involved. So I encourage you to look at that. Now, this is a personal favourite of mine. I've had a number of business cases passed across my desk over the years where people promise that they will save 1 FTE, 2 FTE, 3 FTE, £100,000, £200,000. And it very, very rarely comes to pass. You very rarely actually see that benefit. What I found one of the hardest things to sell into the executive was these benefits are actually real. We will save 2 FTE, we will save £100,000 without them saying, yeah, I've heard it before. So again, something I would encourage you to do there is really push for it, keep going, because these benefits are real and you can get very real cash savings out of the back of this, as I'll allude to later when I go through the case studies. Another one, take some of the pressure off yourself. Run an RFP process with multiple vendors. As I said, 2 years ago, we didn't really know what intelligent automation was. So getting a number of vendors in to both pitch to us, but also to educate us and the senior management team on what this was brilliant. Reference calls, invaluable. We were actually lucky enough to go to a site visit with a reference call. again, it made it very real, listening to these webinars, getting as much information as you can about how you can use this in the real world is invaluable. And then another tip, which is more of an ongoing thing to keep executive buy-in in intelligent automation, is we now create a business case for every single new process that we automate, so that we can go back again and show the cost-benefit analysis and effectively re-tender to the executive for investment. And so far, the business cases we've put forward make every other business case look bad, because they've always got a return that far outweighs most other projects within the business. So that also feels very good, being able to deliver those and then realise the benefits afterwards. So I'm going to talk you through two of the processes now that we automated. The first process that we automated is our inbound post or inbound mail process. We receive an awful lot of post into our building, and that's physical post, so in envelopes delivered by the mail guy in big sacks every day, but also in terms of electronic mail, email, faxes, etc. And up until we started to look at automating these processes and intelligently automating these processes, we were very manual. So I'll just talk you through a little bit about that as-is process. So at 10 o'clock every morning, we'd get a sack of mail. It would be sorted by the post room here within the building, and it would be passed off to one of our customer services agents. They would then spend their time to open every single envelope, and then they would scan, not electronically, but with their eyes, every single piece of mail that they had in front of them and categorize it into different piles, different subject matter, based on their reading of it. They would then take each one of those piles in turn, so they'd probably have about 20 piles, in pigeonholes or across desks, and they would look up manually each account. So they would go into our account management system and search for it, either based on an account number if they could find it, or based on the customer's name or the postcode or date of birth or something that they might be able to find on that piece of information. They would then take a pen and they would write that customer's account number in the top right-hand corner of the piece of post, and they would take their next pile and do exactly the same and go through that. They would then take that over and put it through our scanner, and they would scan a small pile of post at a time, and after each document they would look at the top right hand corner of the document where they've previously written the account number and type in manually the account number to index that piece of post to an account. If they then got the subject matter correct, that subject matter would go across into the document management system, and it would be another piece of post for our customer services agents to work. Unfortunately, that process was actually pretty good compared to our email process, which came into an Outlook inbox and somebody would manually review and forward to people to work. So it was pretty outdated. It was very, very labour intensive. We would have one person doing that process all day long, every day, and that's all they would do. A couple of issues with that. Obviously, we didn't get the post into the building until 10 o'clock, so the first pieces of work were landing in people's work queues not really until lunchtime, and only just finishing by the end of the day, which invariably meant we never got everything out in one day. So what did we change it to? What did we do? So now we had to be a little bit intelligent about this. We couldn't do the same sorting that we'd done. We couldn't just simply automate that process. So now we open the post and we scan it in to a scanner straight away. We don't sort it, we don't review it, we don't look at it. And at the same time, our emails will go directly into that electronic inbox, if you like. So at that point, we've either scanned or an email's come in, and it's now a piece of post or a piece of mail, as you might call it. That is what it is. We don't now differentiate between it coming in via a mail guy or coming in via an electronic mailbox. That's then intelligently read by the total agility system, and a whole bunch of information is scraped from that, and that's the screenshot you can see here. Unfortunately, I've had to redact most of the relevant information, but you'll get the idea. And it will look for two things. It will look for a customer's account number. If it can find that, that's fantastic. If not, it will look for a customer's name, address, date of birth, and try and match it to an account. It will also read key words within the body of that email or that letter to try and categorize it and tell us what that piece of post is about. And if it can do that, straight away it will go into an agent's work queue. If it can't, it will go for a manual review to another team member to review. But guess what? We no longer have that one person sat there categorizing that post all day. I'll go on to the benefits a bit later, but there's been a huge, significant time saving for us, and it has absolutely revolutionized the way we operate for our inbound process, and has been phenomenal, really. So that's our first case study. So it was taking a lot of what Sarah was talking about in terms of that document recognition. It was a very real example of that, reading information straight from that, looking it up against our customer database, categorizing it, putting it into our document management system against the right account, and presenting a work item for somebody in our customer services team to work almost instantly with zero delay. And that happens 24/7. So that happens over the weekend as well, with email going straight in. So that was very, very exciting for us. Also a little bit scary. We had to trust it. So again, I'll go on to talk about this a little bit later, but we didn't actually turn that on day one. So on day one, we asked our agents to verify all of the information that was being electronically matched, and do a button click to say that was okay. Again, I mentioned earlier, we have to assess the risks. If we had a piece of post go missing or a request go to the wrong account, that would have been potentially fairly dangerous for us. So we put in that step to say, are we sure this is the right account? And that served two purposes. One, it got us internally very comfortable that it was the right thing to be doing, but also it gave our agents an opportunity to trust this system, and I would encourage that a lot. Get your agents to trust what they're seeing. It's very, very important. So I'm going to skip on now quickly to the next process that we automated, which is looking at another tool from Kofax, actually, which is the customer communications management system. And this helps us really to send out much more consistent letters and intelligent letters to our customers. The example I will give here is when we set up an arrangement for a customer that might be in arrears or might be struggling to pay, we previously had 27 different templates of a letter for that customer, depending on their circumstances. So depending on how they paid, what day of the month they paid, whether they were paying more than they should, less than they should, whether they were receiving assistance from somebody, paying weekly, monthly, all the different combinations. We had 27 different letter templates. We've managed to take that down into one template with this customer communications management module. And why is that important? Well, previously, our agents sat there on the phone, had to select which one of the 27 letter templates they should be sending to the customer. Now they don't need to do that. They just select, I need to send a letter, and based on the rules within the system and the information that we know about the customer, it will customize the letter and put the right content in the letter for that customer. Now, there's not lots of artificial intelligence there, but that is all about intelligent processes. It's about leaving the intelligence to a rules-based module rather than having to put the pressure on the agent to deliver that. And that's a huge step forward in a journey for us, and that's really the first step. So that only got implemented just a month or so ago, and it's very, very, very exciting for us. In terms of the benefits of both of those things, I've kind of covered them off, but to make those real, the first set of benefits on our inbound post process, we saved 2 FTE. So that is 2 employees that no longer manually sorting posts. They can focus on the customer. We've also now reduced our post turnaround time. So it used to take us 5 days from receiving a piece of post into the building, whether that's email or physical post, to turn that around and respond to it to a customer. It now takes us just 1 day, which is a phenomenal saving, and it's really almost 100% directly attributed to this process. And we've also, I know it sounds silly, but a physical space saving. We no longer have people sorting reams and reams of post on a daily basis. And for customer communications management, it's relatively simple. We've got far, far fewer errors, reduced maintenance. We don't have to maintain 27 different letter templates. And it's given us an opportunity to be much more consistent with our brand and focus on plain English. We also had another, which was quite a nice, unexpected benefit. We're rated by Fitch Ratings, so they're a big rating agency out there, and they come in and they rate us as a mortgage servicer. And we had that done very, very recently, and they've just published their latest report. And they cited our intelligent automation and business process automation as one of the reasons that we had an upgrade in our rating from Fitch, which was absolutely fantastic, and it was a completely unexpected benefit of this. That wasn't why we did it, but they really recognised what that was delivering for our customers. So if I go on to, I guess, the question of the day, really, which is all about, so what is intelligent automation? What does it mean for us? And as I've alluded to a number of times across this, it's two things for us at Foundation. It's intelligently automate. So don't just automate the processes that you currently have. I call it the automation trap. You've got to challenge, why do you do that? What should we be doing? And I would encourage you to do this, which is to document your as-is processes, your to-be processes, and also your to-be processes. And what I mean by that to-be process is the future. What does it look like? Where are you going to go? What do you want in the future? Because what you'll often find is you'll end up with a hybrid between your to-be and your to-be, and it will push you much, much further forward in the way you are intelligent about automation. The next piece of that intelligent automation for us is the artificial intelligence. So Sarah spoke about this earlier. The Kofax Total Agility product will actually learn. So I mentioned our inbound post process. We started by having those training wheels on, like I spoke about. We were a bit cautious about turning that button on to let things go through straight through without categorization. When we initially turned those training wheels off and we let the system start to learn for itself, we saw a 6% uplift in the match rate. And that was because the system was learning. It was taking documents that it knew it had got right, confirming it had got right, and it was learning to match those correctly next time. And ever since then, over the last 4 months of this year, we've had pretty much a 1 to 2% improvement in that match rate every single month. And so that's 1 or 2% less documents in total that a human being has to look at. And that's a few minutes every single time. So that's a huge step forward for us. And that's a 10% improvement over the last 5 months, which is brilliant. So for us at Foundation, intelligent automation is about all of it. It's about being intelligent about how we automate our process, but also that artificial intelligence and the machine learning underneath it. And if you think, when we started this process, we didn't even know what that meant. So it's fantastic. Looking to the future, well, it's more processes. So there are tons of processes that we can look at. There's some very exciting things going on as well around robots. We've been working with Kofax on this to download some robots from them. And this is all about helping us to integrate our fragmented systems. So we've got a few different systems that don't always talk to each other in the background. Robots are a really cool way of potentially using robots to integrate those systems without having to do lots of time-consuming integration. But really, the world is our oyster. We can do what we want to do with this next, based on the next business case and based on the next need of our customer or our employees. So that's me now. Just to summarise, which processes should you automate first? Well, listen to the employees and the customers, and don't eat the elephant. Do what's right for your business. The executive buy-in, really, if you run a good process, it will sell itself. You don't need to put lots and lots of time and effort into that. Acknowledge that unbelievable benefit and hold out for it. Results. Well, I've shown you the results that we had. I would really encourage you to measure those, share them within the business, and be a little bit smug about them, because you can if you get very good results. And for us, what are we doing next? Well, it's maintaining momentum. It's getting that drive of continual improvement and intelligent automation into every area of the organisation. And I'm pretty sure that we will never stop. So there's a lot to do for us. Thank you.
George, thank you very much. That was a tremendous real-world story of achievement. Thank you very much for that. It's great to hear you talk about your realization of the power of intelligent automation in your organization there at Foundation Home Loans over time, and to see the tangible results that you've been able to speak to. We have a few questions which I'll come back to and ask you in a moment or two, maybe a couple of minutes when we get to the Q&A section. I just want, principally for the benefit of those who are unfamiliar with Kofax, to take a moment, try to keep this to a couple of minutes, to inform you about who we are, what we offer in intelligent automation, what our customers particularly have as goals that motivate them to adopt our intelligent automation platform, and then I'll move to moderating the Q&A session. Firstly, in terms of what our customer goals are when they come to Kofax and adopt our platform, I'll then talk a little more on what is the diagram on the right telling you our platform offers. Goals typically are probably the most popular to our customers who have a digital transformation initiative underway, or perhaps an initiative to change the customer experience, which is probably a reflection that we saw there in Foundation Home Loans, trying to change process, such as to change the customer experience. Some people come to us with a desire to meet an organizational goal of transforming capacity, do more with less, exploit the RPA trend in digital workers to increase the capacity and performance of the organization. Many people are engaged in future of work initiatives, is sometimes the phrase, where task is to empower the workforce, both the people and also to deploy some digital workers there. And many folks are coming to exploit AI. They're asking Kofax, and we have substantial AI capability ourselves and machine learning, as George talked, exploiting AI to increase the degree of automation in an organization. What is the Kofax platform? Well, it's a platform of 5 interoperable capabilities. They're shown on the right and expanded a little here on the left, and they encompass a range of capabilities that we've heard discussed today by both Sarah and George. So intelligent document processing, as Sarah discussed it, we speak of that as cognitive capture. We've had a question indeed in order to jump ahead here to Q&A. Erin asked a question on our panel about what do we do for process discovery and for documenting processes. We do that with our robotic process automation technology, where we can automatically identify processes, can be automated using software robots, the key feature of our RPA capability. We also use our advanced analytics, indeed, to document processes and also to highlight visually what are the prime and most valuable processes to automate. And as George said, it's an important aspect of the thinking is to pick the right processes. We also offer that process orchestration or BPM capability that Sarah talked of as being one of the future capabilities that is now being combined with RPA and with artificial intelligence to automate processes in a more intelligent way. We also have a substantial ability to address the mobility needs of organizations, making all kinds of process execution feasible on mobile devices. And we also offer better ways of engaging customers, whether that means generating documents in the way George said to send to them, whether those documents are in paper or manifest on mobile devices. Also, if the customer needs to sign something, we offer e-signature technologies, and we have indeed facial recognition capabilities as well, where you might need to verify the identity of customer. What's distinctive about us, Kofax, is not only that we are the only single supplier who offers this broad range, but we've also invested to make sure that these are truly interoperable. And so out of the box, capabilities that you see on the page here are already built to work together. I'm pleased to say that working with Everest and undergoing the scrutiny of Sarah's expert colleagues, Kofax has been recognized as a leader in intelligent document processing, and for those who access that report, you'll see that IDP is one of the core capabilities of the Kofax intelligent automation platform. I'm particularly pleased to say that one of the criteria for being a leader is that there's a high level of overall satisfaction among our clients. So if you're unfamiliar with Kofax, I encourage you to be in touch. Even if you are familiar with us, perhaps you know us from a past life and are not entirely aware of all we do. We do all the things that you've seen on those pages and much of what has been discussed today. We also, for those new to us, are a global organization. We have over 20,000 customers in the world. We serve the top 10 global banks, 9 of the top 10 global insurers. We are 2,000 people strong, and we serve some of the most prestigious companies in the world who trust us to meet their intelligent automation needs. So with that, let me thank you for tuning in. And what I'd like to do is, in addition to directing you to kofax.com, where you can learn more about us, I'd like to try to squeeze in a quick question or two. George, if I could, I'd like to pass one to you. It came from Andre, and it gets to one of the points you pointed earlier about executive support. And George's question is about what checkpoints executive management expect when you're doing a project. What kind of escalations or what special meetings, or how do you make sure you keep people on board after getting that initial sponsorship? I think, George, that would be a helpful question for you to address for the audience.
Sure. So I guess there's two phases to that for us. So the first being during the project itself. So this was the initial project to actually implement the total agility solution. We had weekly project boards. So the people that had actually committed to that spend would meet on a weekly basis to check that we were meeting the project milestones, so the implementation milestones that we'd talked about, but also the oversight of the process to make sure that the process was due to deliver the benefits that we said it was going to deliver, which is really, really quite important. It wasn't just making sure that we had completed things when we said we would. It was that the design was in place and we had a design authority to say that, yes, this process should deliver the expected benefits. And we carried that on, as I said. So now when we develop new processes for automation, we'll do a business case. So we'll regularly meet, and that same group of people will meet to assess the results of previously implemented processes. So we'll get reports on how's that doing. The graph I showed you there on the match rate is something that we'll look at pretty regularly to see how we're performing, how much have we saved in terms of FTE, and it's actually, for us, it was far beyond what we expected. But having that quite granular level of oversight from the exec afterwards into what we were achieving has actually given us probably more scope and more latitude now to run slightly larger projects because we've already delivered.
Thank you, George. And we have many questions, and I thank you for them. I'm conscious also that because of the great content we had today, we're pushing up against time. So I'm going to take perhaps one more, and maybe Sarah, I can ask this of you. Question here about integrating RPA and AI software. Are those do those come together? Is it possible to get them together? Sarah, would you like to that question?
Yes, certainly. There are some solutions that offer both those types of capabilities. Yes, and there are also ones that have integrated with third-party solutions. So yes, you can get IA packages, so to speak. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. And it would be remiss of me as the Kofax representative if I didn't say that in answer to another question, we offer part of the RPA technology from Kofax, the ability to read unstructured documents, unstructured information, such as from documents. And in that capability, we are exploiting artificial intelligence to do, in the way George discussed, continual improvement of recognition so that the robot can become increasingly smarter with every arrival of a document and read it even more accurately and efficiently each time. So thank you for that. I do want to pass to Rochelle, who has some important information about how we're going to be following up and answering all of your questions, and also some reminders about how you can receive materials and everything else from us. As I pass to you, I would like to extend a very special thank you to George and to Sarah for the great content and presentation today, and to all of you who've joined us for listening and attending, and particularly to those who've asked us questions. Thank you very much. And Rochelle, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Dermot. I'll also add my thank you not only to George and Sarah, but to Dermot and the Kofax team for bringing us this amazing content. I was jotting down so many notes, so many great practical applications and wonderful industry information, so we appreciate that. Also, just wanted to highlight that the collaboration doesn't stop here. Please use those buttons to reach out to the speakers if you'd like to connect with them further. Also, we had just screens and screens of questions. The engagement was wonderful, and we ran out of time, so we've got those all noted down. We've captured your information. We'll be providing that to the panelists. We'll send it over tomorrow, and then they'll start to answer those questions directly to those of you who asked them via email. So look for those answers coming back to you. And as I mentioned in the opening, we have 3 resources for you to take with you. First is a white paper that talks about scaling, expanding, and excelling in intelligent automation. A couple different references to the intelligent document processing vendor landscape, what that looks like, what the key features and stuff are, and you'll find that in that market report with the Kofax profile on the PEAK matrix in there. And then also there is a sea of information available to you in the Intelligent Automation Resource Hub. The link is in your DigiGift bag. Click on that and you'll get all kinds of much more information from there. I thank you to those of you who have joined us live. Special thank you to those of you listening to the on-demand recording. We look forward to hearing from you further, joining us for another one of these webinars and taking advantage of these wonderful resources. So to the entire Kofax team, to Sarah and to George, thank you for your time today. And to everyone else, this now concludes this webinar session. Good day.